We've all been there, I'm sure. We're sat on a bus, we're sat on a train, we're waiting for a job interview to commence, we're queuing for the cashier, queuing for a roller coaster, we're in a meeting, and we start to feel some sense of panic arise. And perhaps the symptoms might include that racing heartbeat. We might start to sweat, some sense of pressure running up our body and almost like strangling us. We might have stepped outside of our body a little bit. Perhaps the walls are starting to spin and to move. We might almost feel like we're kind of floating above ourselves, or perhaps we're unsteady on our feet. And there's a strategy to counter that I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you the strategy to start with, and then I'm going to share some thoughts on it. It means that if you follow the timestamps in the description, it'll just mean if you want just the strategy, you can watch that and then you can leave. If you want to know a little bit more around my thinking on the strategy, then you're welcome to hang around and stay. I hope it's really useful. It's really easy to do, and it's something that I've used over the last probably 2 decades to great effect. We're in that situation and we're starting to feel the panic rise. So we'll take any hand and our other hand, and we're going to start by placing our fingers around our thumb. So the fingers from the opposite hand around the thumb from this hand. Now I'm showing the camera. We don't have to hold it up in the air. In fact, it's better to have it resting in a comfortable position, whether that's on your lap, whether that's on your knee, your thigh, on your stomach, perhaps if you're lying down. I'm holding it up for the benefit of the viewers. So we're just going to have a loose grip around that thumb, and we're going to start to perceive our pulse. We're waiting for our pulse to be felt by these fingers here, and that could take seconds, it could take minutes. We're just going to be patient and we're going to wait for that pulse to arrive. And when we start to feel it, we're going to move on gently onto the next finger. So again, a nice loose grip, and probably down on our lap. And we're waiting for a pulse. And when we feel it, we move on to the next one. And so on, and so on. And we finish this hand, and then we repeat the process on the other side. And so on, and so on. And that could take us a minute, it could take us 2 minutes. It might actually take us 2 minutes sometimes to actually perceive the pulse on one finger. For example, we might notice it straight away on our thumb, on our first finger that we meet. And we get to our next finger on the pattern, and it might take us a little bit longer. That's fine. So we're just going to be patient, and we're waiting for the pulse to arrive. By the time you finish both hands, you should feel some sense of calm returning to your body. But we're on that loop now. We can just repeat that process as much as you feel necessary. And because it's nice and covert, we can do that wherever we need to, really. Like I say, perhaps we're sat in a meeting and we suddenly think, I can't leave, I can't escape, I can't exit the room if I want to. And for some people, that might be quite a triggering situation. So just something that you can do at your desk. And people, to anyone watching, you just squeezing your thumb. Lots of people kind of fiddle or stretch their fingers out and click their fingers. It looks more or less the same as that. We're not necessarily taking deep breaths. We're not necessarily closing our eyes, although you certainly can do that. And that probably will enhance the experience. But actually what we're looking for is just the pulse. So we're working through our hands in a loop, and we'll feel some sense of calm return. So the technique itself has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I'm not necessarily going to talk about the kind of acupressure or any of that sort of thing. I'm going to talk about why I like it. So firstly, because it's covert. Like I've said a few times, you can just do this wherever you want to. Secondly, it's really quick. I think thirdly, what it does for me is when we're feeling that pulse, particularly if the panic's stripped us of our autonomy or our control, it reminds us like we're human. But also as we move through each finger, we see that that pulse is the same. My pulse isn't racing on this thumb slow on this finger, racing on this finger. There's a uniformity. And it's likely as we move through each finger, and perhaps on a couple of iterations with the hand, we'll feel that pulse lower. And that's when we start to regain some sense of control. And I think the other reason it's really good is it gives you a task to concentrate on. And tasks are often really good ways to remove yourself from a panic attack happening. So let's say you're on a train and it pauses at the signals for a little bit longer than you want it to, and you start to panic. I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to miss that appointment. I really need the toilet, or whatever multitude of reasons that might cause someone to have like a trigger panic episode in that time. We can look out the window. We're not going to get there any quicker. We can try and distract ourselves with music or with books or what have you. And sometimes it's hard to do those things. Like music's quite passive, so it doesn't really snap us out of it. Reading requires concentration, so it's hard to do in that moment. Whereas this is such a simple activity that we can do it without feeling like we're kind of actively taking part in an activity, but it means that our brain is now super focused on like quite a rhythmic experience that's connected to our central nervous system. So I want you to have a go at that technique. Do it out of panic as well. Do it if you just want to calm down. Perhaps maybe you're in bed and you just want to test the technique as a good kind of primer, I would say. So have a go at it. I'd love to get some feedback on it. I'll see you in the next video.